Welcome to Unite Now, where we bring unity to you, wherever you are.
Well, it looks like we hit the mark, Daniel. So what I'm going to do is get us started. Like I said, my name is Brian Kenney. I'm a Unity Certified Instructor. I'm going to be helping out today. Um, Today's session is making snow with VFX Graph. If you are new to Unity, this is perfect for you because this is a very gentle introduction to VFX Graph. It's an amazing Unity tool. It is so cool to use. I am joined by Daniel Sanchez. He's going to lead you through all the technical aspects of today's session. Daniel, you want to say a little bit about what you do real quick?
Yeah, sure. I'm Daniel Sanchez. I'm Unity Certified Instructor, and I'm an indie game developer. I work in my own games in accessibility. So that's my job.
Beautiful. And I am a adjunct professor at Norco College in Norco, California, and also teach in high school. And I'm a director of a nonprofit called Immersive Education. So joining us in the chat and Q&A, we have some amazing moderators that are going to help you guys out with all of your questions and all of your problems. We've got Ethan, Abhishek, Rodrigo, and James. Quick note about the chat and Q&A. Chat, please put all your general comments into the chat. And if you've got any technical questions that you need to ask any of the moderators, they are here to help you. So drop those in the Q&A as early and often as you would like, because those guys are amazing people. They are amazing Unity certified instructors as well. So if you are unsure about where to get in the chat and Zoom, or the chat and the Q&A, just look at your toolbar and you can bring that up by clicking the Q&A button. So if you're new to a Unity Learn Live, you can catch up on any of the recordings on our Unity Learn Live site. That is available to anyone and everyone now that Unity unlocked Unity Learn Premium. That's amazing. So if you get stuck or if we're moving too fast, drop us a note in the chat. But you can always get caught up later on when you're on your own time. So if you are following along, that's amazing. We like to see that you guys are doing and exploring. And if you don't want to participate by doing, you can always just follow along and reference the recording later on. As I said before, questions in the Q&A panel and comments in the chat panel. Be respectful and constructive, please. The moderators are amazing and they're there to help. So just remember that. Be ready to follow along. It says there that we are going to be using 2019.3, but we are going to be using 2019.4, the LTS version. So it will, it's going to work over many different Unity versions, but we recommend that version for this session. And like I said, this session will be recorded, so you can reference it back later on. And again, be friendly and respectful in the chat. All right, so Unity, this is what we do. We want you to watch and process what what Daniel's trying to teach you. Then we want you to do. And then later on, when the session's over, that's when you guys get to explore and experiment. The VFX Graph is an amazing tool. There's a lot to do, and you guys can. There's a lot to experiment with. It's impossible to break it, so make sure that you're exploring. So here's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to finish up with the introduction here pretty soon, and Daniel's going to take over and lead you through preparing the project, an explanation on VFX Graph, and we're going to go through a series of challenges. If you see that little red stop sign with the exclamation point, that does mean to just go ahead and watch. When it turns to a green thumb, go ahead and do, and exploration comes later. So, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Daniel Sanchez, take over.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. So, is everything okay? I'll turn off my camera so people in iPads or mobile devices don't have like any issues in the slides. Well, welcome everyone. As Brian said, I'm Daniel Sanchez. My main language is in English, so if I said something weird or wrong, don't hesitate to say that in the chat. It's pretty cool. It's okay to say that. I will be sharing with you the VFX graph. So James has shared a link in the chat. So please download those assets. It's a zip with a Unity package. So first you need to download those assets and open a Unity project. If you don't know how to open a Unity project, I will show you in a couple of minutes. So please download those assets. James is sharing the link in the chat. And yeah, we have like 5 minutes to do this setup. So don't worry. If you have any questions about it, if you have any warning, any error trying to these steps, so don't worry and ask in the Q&A tab. It's okay to ask. So everybody has the link now, so I will show you how to open the Unity project. I guess you're seeing my screen now. You're seeing my Unity Hub window. So if you're struggling right now with the Unity projects, you need to choose very carefully in this little arrow next to New. Please select the version 0.4, 2019.4. It's okay to have the 0.3, but it's recommended to use 0.4, right? So you click here in the version, and you will see a couple of templates. Please, this is like this is not mandatory, but you will need it to follow this session very quickly to use the high definition render pipeline template. I will show you the steps right here in the slides. So please select this high definition render pipeline. Use your name your project and set a location. That's it for our setup. You will have this is not the scene, but you have like these folders in your project. So when you're fine, please tell us in the chat. 5 minutes to do these steps. So remember, please set up the Unity project, download the assets, extract them, and open your Unity project. Okay, you got it will be okay. So don't worry about it. When we are using the high definition render pipeline or universal render pipeline, we need to update our materials to this new render pipeline in order to have like the correct illumination and yeah, like the proper illumination in the scene. so you don't have any errors. So it's okay to upgrade those materials. Maybe this will take some time to open and set up the project. So don't worry. We'll be explaining some things about VFX Graph. Meanwhile, you're loading your project. So if you need to step back a little, don't worry.
Yes, Daniel, and it's very important, everybody, that you guys make sure that you are using HDRP, because if you don't, your textures are going to show up pink when you load your project. So make sure you're using HDRP so you can get all the textures to appear correctly.
You should upgrade just the materials. It will be okay. So don't worry about the other links, but try to upgrade the project materials. Everybody needs more time to download and set up the assets. I guess there's people here who just finish these steps. So if everything's okay, we'll be explaining a little bit of visual effects graph. This is our VFX graph. Maybe you saw before these like showcases. It's pretty cool. VFX graph is a node-based graph that help us to manage or create our own effects. It's pretty similar to the particle effects, particle system. Maybe you should be like familiar. If you're new into Unity, maybe you should see some particles around. You'll see like a really long list in Unity. This VFX graph will help us to achieve some more complex VFX, visual effects, based in particles. This is GPU based, so it's pretty more efficient. These particles will run in the GPU, so you don't have to worry about the number of particles, and of course is more powerful. If you see here in the in this video, you should see at least three different particles, particle systems, but VFX systems. This is one, like the smoke, the lightnings, and this is pretty cool. The man created from the dust and the fog here. This is achieved with the VFX graph, so it's more powerful than our current particle system. It's a node-based editor, so if you're familiar to the shader graph or node-based like graphs templates, you should be okay with this workflow, and of course it's really cool. Well, what's the advantage we have with a VFX graph? As I said, is running the GPU, so the particle count is pretty more extensive. You have you can handle millions of particles at the same time. As the particle system, the Unity particle system is running the CPU, you will handle thousands, at least thousands of particles at the same time. This will be like, okay, sorry if I forgot some words, but they will load so much your CPU, your your CPU, so you won't have many particles and many effects running in those systems. The simulation, as you can see in the videos before, it's pretty complex. You have like, let me show you again these particles right here. You will have a really complex manage of the particles at the same time as it's running in the CPU, but we lack in the physics. As we can, there's not a, let me have this here. At this as these particle systems is, oops, sorry, isn't running in the CPU, we don't have like a direct way to access the physics systems. This, well, it depends what you're doing. Some at least some collisions, some things, maybe you will have some struggle right there with the physics systems. But we have another cool thing about you can read frame buffers. You can access like the pixels that are drawing your screen like in real time, so you can access those frame buffers. You can handle a lot of particles at the same time, so it's really, it's a really cool way to show people to show effects to your players, to your users, and they don't have the cost in the CPU. That's the particle system right now. I don't know if you want to add something, Brian. Maybe I'll struggle a little here in the technical part, but it will be okay if you want to add something in this section. Okay. So is everything okay? Everybody has the project set up now? Again, don't worry to ask anything in the Q&A chat, in the Q&A tab. I'm sorry. So don't worry if you don't understand something, you struggle a little. We'll be seeing this in a deep detail right now. So everybody has the scene now. So we'll be talking about the support platforms. If you're using 2018.3, it should be fine. We'll be using for this session 19.4, so don't worry if you have uh, something between in 18.3 and 19.4. This will work for the HDRP like templates is or high definition render pipeline. You can also use this in the universal render pipeline. So don't worry if you have like a project made for mobile. So, but you will be to you will need to be careful about the GPU, consuming GPU. But this is pretty optimized, so don't worry about it. Well, and of course, test your targeted platform. It's like the main measures here. So for setting up VFX Graph, for those who are setting the project right now, I'll be switching to Unity. In our scenes folder, you will have a sample scene. This is like a, oh, okay. There's a VFX Snow scene. I'm sorry. I create before a VFX Graph, but we'll be setting up this VFX in the project in the package manager, right? You will need to click Window, Package Manager, and then wait for the package to load. If you're using the high definition render pipeline template, you will see here that it's already installed, the high definition render pipeline, and you will see this visual effect graph package already installed. So if you're using the template, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're using like an older project and you need to upgrade it to high definition render pipeline and visual effect graph, this is the way. I don't know if you want to add something, Brian. I think you lost the connection a few minutes ago, but I think you're muted. But
The package manager is pretty straightforward stuff, man. I'm just kind of watching the Q&A in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much, Brian. So please make sure you have the visual effects graph package already installed. If you have it, we'll be playing around our first VFX in a minute. And if you can use it in the universal render pipeline, yes, I think you can use it, but be careful about the number of particles. Obviously, the particles in smaller platforms like mobile, they are not powerful as the dedicated GPU in a PC. So these are the steps you need to follow. If you need something, don't worry and don't hesitate in ask in the Q&A tab. Well, I said like 2 minutes for this step, but I think I rushed a little bit before. So we'll be wait 4 more minutes to do these steps about setting up all the project with the package we already download and this and make sure we have the VX graph already installed. So 4 more minutes or 3 more minutes and we will continue. Okay, how's everybody in the chat? Done, all good, done. Okay. I wait a minute more, but I saw a question about 2D. You will see that our VFX graph is working at a pretty familiar way. If you're using the particle system, it's not too much different. So remember that all other objects in Unity are in 3D. So we change the camera position and the perspective to achieve a 2D perspective. So it will be really cool to use the the VFX graph with some sprites or custom sprites or lightning effects. But remember to use the 2D render asset, I think, for achieve a really cool effect and have the illumination from your particles. Okay. Or terminology in VFX graph. We will see in the VFX graph boxes everywhere. The main boxes you will have are the contexts that are the major categories. Inside you have little green blocks that are basically the blocks that are basically our properties we want to change and adapt to achieve a specific effect. We have the nodes that are similar to nodes in shader graph, if you are familiar with. They run different pieces of logic to change these properties in the VFX graph. So I play around this scene. As you can notice, there's a scene called VFX Snow. Sorry. If you open this scene, just double click it, you will see in the game window a couple of trees. I already set up a really simple effect, so I will close these tabs. Close tab, and close tab. I want to make more space for my first VFX. So in the project window here, where we have our folders, you can right click it and select create. Then I'll go to visual effects and create a new visual effect graph. So if you create a new visual effect, I will name it, you can name it first VFX, but I name it new VFX. You can have any name you want. So I will double click my asset. It takes a couple of seconds, so don't worry if don't show up really quickly. As you can see, it opens a new tab window, so you need to drag this to a side. Let me yeah, I think it's okay. Okay. Sorry. When we are working with VFX, we will need like more space in our screen. So try to set up this layout. You can dock any tab you want by clicking and drag it. So please try to have your scene in one window and your VFX graph in another window. You will see this like blackboard. You can turn it off here in the little tab called blackboard. I will turn it off in order to have more space. And here's what we see in a new VFX graph. This is the spawn, like the spawn context. This will determine how fast our particles are going to spawn and when to start and spawn, right? So you will see a rate of new particles. Let me. Oh, okay. I didn't drag this new VFX graph to my scene. That's why I'm not seeing anything here. So I will drag it to the hierarchy, double click it in order to zoom to this object, and we will see our particle. Well, it's not our particle effects, but it's our new VFX graph system or particles here.
And
You,
Daniel, is it all right if I add something real quick?
yeah, sure.
There's a question in the chat about, you can't see some of these things. Well, everything in your VFX window is controlled by your middle mouse button. So
Okay,
if
right.
you hold down the middle mouse button, you can move things around, or you can scroll in and out. So if you're not seeing something, you might need to move around to kind of find it, scroll out, scroll in with the middle mouse button, or tap it to move around. Sorry, go ahead.
No. It's okay. I forgot to mention that. So thank you so much, Brian. So here we have our concept and spawn. We have our rate property. This controls like the rate of particles that are being spawned. But if I increase that, like, I don't know, 500, you won't see anything like happen here. You will see like 3D particles or so. That's because here in our context, initialized particle, we have a capacity. The capacity that control these this rate, right? If I increase the capacity, we will have more particles that have been shown in this VFX graph. These initialized contexts have the initial parameters we want to change. Like initial parameters are like the initial values you want your particles to have, like the velocity. This is a pretty common property. You will have lifetime, and notice this will say random. If I change this, I don't know, in the set velocity to like 0 and I don't know 1000, let me change that. Okay, you will see you will see your particles don't move. They don't have any velocity at our start. So let me change the final velocity, something like 111, and we will see our particles start to floating around. If I want to set the particles in just one axis, I can show you this. These particles are now moving in the x axis. I can do the same in the y axis, x and y axis, and now I have like a plane of particles that are being spawned, right? But if we are using an space, our 3D space as our scene, we want to set up this in a space. Maybe you want to achieve like a smoke, or like a smoke or fire effect. So you'll need to change this velocity in order to have particles all around the axis. You will have a lifetime. This is then the seconds of life of your particles. If I set up these to, I don't know, 0 to 1, you will see our particles lifetime is pretty more shorter. They will die really soon at in between of 0 and 1 second. If we are achieving a really fast effect, this is what we want to change. But if we want to less, if we want to or VFX Graph to last longer, we need to increase this, I don't know, to 5 seconds. And we will have some particles that die between, I don't know, pretty quick at 2 seconds, and some particles that die at 5 seconds. Some have 4, 3, yeah, numbers in between those. Right. In our context, we will have our update particle. In this context, we will need to change. We will need to change these update particles in order to manipulate the particles in the runtime. So this is where you have our behavior, the behavior of the particles. How do we want to manage these particles in the runtime? So we can add forcers like gravity in this in this context, in this big block right here. And let me show you real quick. If I press space, I can use a force, I can use gravity, but there's an input field right here that I allow me to write anything I want to add a new block. So I want to add the gravity force block. So this is what we are seeing now. Our particle system, our VFX graph is not having our gravity. By default, our gravity is minus 9.81 meters squared, meters seconds squared, I think. So this is what we will achieve. If I want to my particles to float, I can change it to a positive value, and now my particles are floating around. Yeah, this is what we want to change if I need my particles to go upside or down. This is a pretty common effect I want to share with you. Maybe if I can set up a little lifetime, maybe you can think this as a little sparks floating around, but we will have to change maybe some gravity and making more changes in our VFX graph in order to have a new visual effect. I want to change the way that I see my particles. So this context right here, the output particle, is what we want to change. We have right here our color. I can change my color in this gradient editor. So these little arrows right here, the down arrows, sorry, they allowed me to change my color, right? I think maybe something between yellow and blue. As you can notice, this is the color over time block. So my particles are starting yellow, and meanwhile their lifetime is going, they are turning blue. I'm sorry. As you can see down here, let me change the life for these particles. Okay. And maybe -1 right here. You will see the particles are starting yellow and they're turning blue at the end of the lifetime. You can change our size this is a pretty common property to change. If I want my particles to start really big, I can change this graph right here, and they will die a little bit smaller. So we will have like a crowded little space right here, but they are floating around, they are falling, and they're turning blue and getting more and more small in their lifetime. If I want to change the main texture of my particles, you will have to change this property. You have multiple sprites right here, so you can change it. I like this greenish bubble, I think. So this is a pretty fast effect you can achieve using these blocks. Another cool effect you may want to try in these minutes is to use a template. You can right click here in the VFX graph and create a node. Here you will find a system. You click system, and then you will have to click swarm particle effect. This is pretty awesome, and it's a really cool template. As you can see, we are handle these two particle systems. I will call particle system, but you know it's a VFX graph. We are handle two different particles at the same time with the same graph. So this is really powerful. And our next challenge actually is to create your first VFX graph. Please use this as your example. We don't have like 10 minutes, but we will want to see if you can create your own VFX graph and create a swarm particle system, right? So let's take 5 minutes for this part. I know I take a longer time that I wasn't explaining these blocks, but I really want to play with this particle system. So remember, you need to right click in your VFX graph, create a new node, and change and select the system tab right here, and create a swarm particle system. So you will have this nice effect. I really encourage you to change the form of this swarm particle. So you will need to see where this particle is generating this form, this shape. Five minutes, and we will continue to make our snow particle. Oh, that's a really cool shortcut. If you press A in the keyboard, you will see all the blocks in your VFX graph. Remember, anything you may need, you can answer. You can make your questions in the Q&A tab. So don't worry and don't hesitate to ask any question.
There was a question in the chat, Daniel, about having multiple particle systems on your graph. You can do that. As a model, it's probably a good idea to have like maybe one open, and then you can turn off one particle system. Just kind of use it as a template. So up at the very top in your spawn node, there's a little checkbox there that you can turn your particle system off, just to kind of do it as a comparison back and forth on when you are making like your new particle system, so you have a model. I like that one though, man. I think it's cool. I was playing around with that yesterday.
Yeah, I really like to change this position, like in sphere. I want to change it. I delete this block and create a new block called, this is a torus. In Spanish is toroide. It's a pretty cool effect, like a ring of fire. But we will need to change the turbulence block in the update a little bit in order to have like a more messy particles around these stores. So everything is okay in the chat?
Danny, we have a request to switch to the slides because they want to see the steps.
Remember to create this one particle, right-clicking in the VFX graph, create a new node and select system. You will find the template swarm particle system. It's possible to add like as a source, right? Yeah, actually these particles, I think they have like a, I don't know if it's an emissive material, but they have like their own light that will be affecting the scene. So you can have like in our VFX graph. So couple of minutes, you can write in the chat if you are setting up your swarm particle. Play around the spawn, the initialize, and the update. As you can saw in my screen, I changed in the initialized particle. I changed the, oh, I'm sorry. Here. I changed the position torus. I delete the old one that was an sphere, and I set a torus for my swarm particle system. Is there a way to use terrain as collider? You will struggle a little bit in that using a terrain as collider, because our VFX can access directly to the physics systems. So you will need to set like I think if you are creating like a meteor, you will need to set like a riecast to the terrain and handle all those things in the logic of your VFX or your code in order to turn some things on and off. But I don't know if you have any other advice, Brian, about these questions. Meanwhile, I will share or make it snow slides in order to advance a little. If you're finishing our first challenge, please write in the chat. And see this slide right here. Oh, there's a couple of people that are done with the challenge.
All done.
Pretty cool. Okay.
I think we're ready.
Yeah. This is our challenge about make it snow. Don't make it rain. Instead, make it snow. For our snow, I will show you really quick the my first VFX graph that I previous set up here, right here. If I can see my window general game, I'll set up this. If you can see my screen, there's a couple of things already set up. A terrain, a couple of trees, and we will have to make our VFX graph in order to make it snow. So first VFX graph, I really want to show you this real quick. And here it is. You will need to change a little bit the position of the particle as an object, because the the 0, 0, 0 position is pretty far. It's like in this corner. So you will need to change this position pretty close to the trees. Make sure you change it a little bit. You play it here with this position, and you will see that in the camera. In the game window, you will see your particle system right here if you're setting up correctly this position. So in your VFX graph, you will need to change, of course, our rate. I set up like 500 in our span rate, but take a look here in the capacity. We have 50. I can increase this a little bit in order to have more snow. I really like this effect. So you will need to change like the velocity a little bit, set up a longer lifetime for particles. If they are really close to the camera, you will need a shorter amount of time in the lifetime. Remember this number randomly between A and B, what you set up here. You will need to add a block here and a box. You will need to add a box in order to have these particles to spawn in a box, like in a box shape. So you will need to right click here, create block, and you will search for a box. Here you will see a position a box. This is what you want to change, and of course increase the size of your box in order to have more space for our particles to spawn. I will change this to 50. I think it's okay in the y-axis. Y-axis is upside, and 50 to make it like a more squarish shape. Okay. Here in the output context, in the output block, you will see our main texture. You will need to click this little target, this little circle right here, and find an sprite called snow. This one right here is snowflake. This is the sprite you want to select in order to have snow or snowflakes coming from the sky. So you will need to select this. Oops, I'm sorry. I really want this snow to have like a more natural behavior, more natural falling. So you will need to obviously add your gravity block. I set up in -9.1. and I set up a turbulence block. You will need to click here, right click, create block, and you will check for turbulence. This will this will create like a turbulence in the particle system. So you will see how the particles are not falling straight down. They are like doing some curves in the air. It's more natural to have this little block right here, this turbulence. If you're familiar with the particle system built in Unity, you will be familiar with the noise section. So this is what we are calling noise right here. You have right like a noise type right here, so it's pretty the same. This is what you want to change in order to have your snow and your scene ready. I set the size over lifetime in order to have an increase in the size. They start like little and they're coming like they're finishing their life a little bit big. So this is the steps you want to do. So I'll share you these slides. So remember, initialize need to set the position to an AA box. Use gravity and turbulence. And you want to change your output the main texture to the sprite is snowflake. So these are the steps. We will take in a couple of minutes. If you have any question, please drop your questions in the Q&A tab, and we will be wrapping up in a couple of minutes. I'll change my view to Unity screen, Unity window, so you can see a little bit how my particle system are set up. I set a rate in the spawn block at 500, capacity at 500 also. I set a random velocity. Actually, the gravity will win this fight. So I set a really short amount of lifetime, a position, remember a box, a box. I increase the size of the box in order to have more space for the particles to spawn. In update particle, I added two blocks, gravity and turbulence, in order to fall to my particles to fall down and have a little bit of noise in their falling down. Also in the output particle quad, how we are seeing our particles, I changed the main texture to the snowflake. I also changed the size over lifetime in order to have like a more natural behavior right here, in order to have big snowflakes and coming to the camera and getting more little. And the said color over lifetime, I reminded white. So if you want to change this to a bluish color, you can do it actually. If you want to achieve something more specific. But I think the snow is white, so I leave it white. This is our VFX graph. I really encourage you to play with these packages. Really hard. This is really fun to do. You can actually have your particles really fast. These swarm particles are one thing you should try, definitely. So make sure to play around with all these options. Add more blocks, delete blocks, see what happens, everything you want. Please play around with these systems.
That's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Learn by doing. That's amazing.
Actually, we will be wrapping up this session. Obviously, if you have more questions, we'll be around a couple of minutes, but we'll be wrapping up. I really encourage you to follow these challenges. Explore explore these different cases. You have a lot of visual effects samples you can download and see what they're working. You can actually have like the video we saw before and so it in real time, so you see the powerful tool we have here. It's pretty cool to play around with these samples and try your own projects. As Brian said, the best way to learn. So I really encourage you to join the Learners Connect group, complete the VFX challenges in the GitHub. I really want to share with you this link. So let me share you this link in the chat. You will have to click it and please save it. And yeah, complete the VFX challenges and post them in the Learners Connect group. There's a couple of projects you can see there. They are really awesome to see and easy to do. So you can ask any question you have. You can play around with more people that are learning this stuff. So please post questions and discuss. I think that's all for today. If you want to reach me, at least you can write me at this mail. I also have a Twitch. I stream 3 days a week. So if you want to say hi or learn something new, I'll be on Twitch and my Twitter if you want to see what I'm working on. I don't know if you have any info to share with us, Brian? Before
I do have a Twitter. I'll put it in the chat here.
awesome.
If you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Pretty cool. So thank you everyone for being here in this session. Remember, there's a lot of sessions in the Unity Learn site. So please follow these questions, follow these sessions. Everything you may need, please reach us. Drop all your questions in the Learners Connect group. And thank you, everyone. We'll be answering more questions a couple of minutes more. But this is all we have today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. You guys are amazing.
I will be playing around with this swarm particle. Here it is. So I can change, as you can see, this new VFX. Okay, this fierce VFX graph. Okay. I didn't open this project right here. Let me change this my swarm particle. So I'll change my position in order to have another shape. I can use more shapes, like maybe a cone. And you can see how it is created. you can actually have meshes right here. In the Genie before, I think you use a mesh in order to create the swarm particle around the mesh. You have well, let me go back. In this particle, you have, I think, three systems. This ray right here, this smoke, a middle smoke, and the Genie. At least three particle systems or three blocks or VFX here. This one, and this one. So you can see the actual, you can see this example in the GitHub, in the how this is created. So you will find all the info there in the Unity GitHub. So I think that's all for today. Thank you, everyone. Let me close this thing, and thank you, everyone. Hope to see you in the next Learn session. Goodbye,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.